Deep within the bowels of the Masonic Temple here in Philadelphia, we have the archives of the Grand Lodge of Pennsylvania. It's on these shelves that you can see behind me and off to my left and behind our photographer, where archives spanning 3 centuries of Masonic history in Pennsylvania are for the most part stored. We also contain a large collection of documents from other Grand Lodges throughout the United States and the world. But not everything here is Masonic, and we have a number of things that are of a historic and artistic interesting nature. And since everybody likes Egypt, I thought I would take 2 particular documents off of the shelves to show you today. In 1798, when Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte launched his Egyptian campaign against the British, he took with him an archaeologist by the name of Dinan. Him and his team of archaeologists went across all of ancient Egypt, sketching and taking notes on various antiquities that they found. This book here that I have laid out in front of me is one of those books of his artwork that Dinan printed in 1802 upon his return to France. This contains a number of illustrations that were done by the archaeological team which followed Napoleon. For instance, you can see here is an illustration of one of the ancient ruins. And if you take a look here, you can see illustrations of the Sphinx before it was completely dug out and appearing the way it does today. The other book I have below me was printed in 1875 in New York City. These are all color illustrations of ancient Egypt. Now this is a little more awkward to handle, but you get a good idea of the rich color and detail that went into these illustrations. And I particularly want to share this one with everybody because this is the column of the Temple of Dendera. These 2 columns are reproduced here in this building in the Egyptian Hall, which is one of the more popular meeting places for our lodges who assemble here for their lodge meetings. Among some of the other documents I'd like to share with you today are some of both of Masonic interest and also of interest to the history of the United States. The first one, which was donated to us in 1971, is a document, a shipping document from 1807 that the sea captain of this ship, it was a merchant ship, would have presented to any foreign navy who had stopped him questioning what he was carrying. This was at a time when the Napoleonic Wars had already broke out, and American shipping at that point was still trying to keep a neutral interest and not get involved with either parties. This document is signed by President Thomas Jefferson and signed by James Madison, who was at the time the Secretary of State. There are some interesting Masonic documents in here as well. This is a pass that was signed in 1777 identifying the holder as a legitimate member of a Masonic lodge. We also have quite a collection of 18th and early 19th century Masonic documents printed on vellum. Now you can see this is quite wrinkly. Vellum is a type of leather. It's not paper the way we know paper today, which is why it still maintains its white appearance after over 200 years. This is a document from Lodge number 51, which still to this day meets in this building. And this document dates to 1853. Here again, you can see another Masonic document that carried over the themes of Egyptology with the pyramids and other Egyptian-themed artwork appearing on the bottom. In addition to the Masonic documents, not everything is large and as attractive as some of the artwork I showed you earlier. For instance, this little booklet here, at first you may just look over it. This is a U.S. passport from the year 1861. It was issued in August of 61 to Thomas Patton, who for a number of years was the treasurer of the Grand Lodge of Pennsylvania. Now, it's a shame that Brother Patton didn't travel anywhere because the passport is completely blank, but what makes it very interesting from a standpoint of American history is that when you open the document in the front that makes it official, it is signed by William H. Seward, who was the Secretary of State under Abraham Lincoln, and the Secretary of State who was responsible for us picking up a whole lot of property on the northwestern coast of North America, which we now know today as Alaska.